I've listened to Machine Head by Deep Purple for more than a year.
And I listened to it once yesterday.
Welcome to Spin It. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Spin It, the record ranking podcast for people who would rather be listening to music. I'm James, and with me is Connor.
I think this is going to be a deep episode.
A deep episode for Deep Purple? I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than a shallow episode. Imagine listening to a podcast that was so uninformative that you left describing it as shallow.
I'm also worried that the Mixtaper is going to be, like, extra strong this week.
Oh, because of the color purple?
Oh, yeah.
Or because there's 800 members in Deep Purple for him to find facts about?
Yeah. It could be a little bit of both.
Little column A, little column B, little column C, little column D.
I just know he loves a good Deep Purple. Little column Mark 1, little column Mark 2, little column Mark 3.
Yeah.
Little column Mark 4.
Yeah, no, the Mixtaper does seem like a rather Deep Purple kind of guy. We'll see how he does. I have to say, I had a ton of fun getting ready for this episode. I have a lot of fun preparing for all of them, but I especially really enjoyed learning about Deep Purple and Machine Head and the stuff that went into this album. This is another interesting year of discovery story for me. I found this album kind of on accident.
Really?
Yeah. I knew Smoke on the Water. I couldn't have even told you that it was by Deep Purple, honestly, at the time that I found this album. But what happened was I was doing my Albums of the Month playlist one month, as I do, every month, and I got it to like 93 songs. And I said, I want to get it to 100. I try that some months. I try to hit 100 songs, but I said, what can I do? I Googled the best 7-track albums, and I wanted to see if there were any that it could fit. And I saw this one, and I was like, I don't have a lot of like prog metal in my repertoire yet. Let me look at this. And I was like, this is Smoke on the Water. Like, yeah, let me throw it on the list. And so I discovered Machine Head because I just needed a 7-song album. And lo and behold, here it is in an episode. Time flies. I also have interesting discovery tales for Smoke on the Water itself, but we'll get into that. What about you? How did you discover Deep Purple? Is it like a thing you discovered 24 hours ago?
Okay, so I'm going to have to take you way back here.
Way back to 25 hours ago.
I first discovered Deep Purple 48 hours ago.
48? Whoa. Okay.
When I looked to see who we were going to do, so I knew who I needed to listen to the next day.
Gotcha. So you didn't even discover the name Deep Purple until 2 days ago. This is all new to you.
Well, hang on. We're going that far. We got to go back to 2008 Connor.
Whoa. Rip. Yes?
When he first learned of the color purple.
The color? You didn't learn of the color purple until 2008?
I've decided I don't like that joke. It makes me seem dumb.
Well, I don't know about dumb.
I just wanted to bring back 2008 Connor.
Well, not like this.
Let the dead rest.
Yeah. Deep Purple, I think genre-wise, I kind of would put them on a spectrum of like, if Yes and The Nice are at one end of the spectrum, right, that really proggy kind of stuff, and then at the other end of the spectrum is like Motley Crue and Iron Maiden. I know we haven't done an Iron Maiden episode yet, but just use your imagination. I think Deep Purple is like smack dab in the middle between them, and that's really exciting. I had a lot of fun with the Yes and The Nice and Motley Crue, so I don't remember what you scored all of them off the top of my head, but I'm guessing this would probably be comparable. Yes got an 8.
They sure did.
The Nice got a 6. The Motley Crue got an 8. So there you have my predictions for you, but we'll see. Well, are you ready to go a little deeper into the Deep Purple?
Yeah, let's go deep.
Okay. Deep Purple is a great band name. Great color, but great band name. Deep Purple's an English metal band that first formed in 1967. They started out as a psychedelic band, right? Making kind of acid rock type music, but they made the shift into heavy metal by 1970, joining Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, who we talked about pretty recently on episode 150, in what's been called the unholy trinity of British hard rock in the early to mid 70s. It's a very specific label, but they were a part of it. And yeah, like we kind of alluded to a little bit in the beginning, Deep Purple has gone through a ton of lineup iterations over the years. Like a lot. During the stint from 68 to 76, they deemed their 4 key lineups their 4 eras. They were Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4. And that was kind of what they meant to do all along. So, let's touch on first Mark 1, right? Deep Purple founders. Deep Purple was founded by the drummer for a band called The Searchers, Chris Curtis. He had an idea, right? A novel idea for a rock group called Roundabout, which was going to be a supergroup, but not in the traditional sense. It was going to be a supergroup where members would literally just come and go at will in a constantly shifting revolving door of a lineup. Yeah, very hard.
Because when everybody's super, no one will be.
Yeah, right. That was going to be a lot to manage and handle. But he actually did get some traction with the idea and found some financiers for the band. So he starts putting together Roundabout. The first member on the roster was Curtis's roommate, organ player John Lord. He was in a band called the Flower Pot Men with bassist Nick Simper and drummer Carlo Little, who also joined the project. And they, in turn, called up guitarist Richie Blackmore of the Dominators. They actually flew him all the way to England from Hamburg to audition, but he actually was using drugs so heavily, so much. He was on LSD in such an intense way that they almost just didn't let him in the band because of it. But anyway, after a few more months living together in the same place and auditioning literally dozens of vocalists, they get to a lineup that consists of Rod Evans as the lead vocalist, Blackmore on the guitar, Lord on the organ, Simper on the bass, and Ian Pace on the drums. Ian Pace actually is the one constant in Deep Purple's history ever since he first joined in 1968. He's made it through all the marks. But Roundabout gets to touring in Lower Scandinavia, and the band decides, you know what, we can't be Roundabout anymore. It's time for a name change. They kind of ditched the concept, even, of the Revolving Door Band, but they let everyone submit one name suggestion on a board that they set up in rehearsal. They said everyone gets to pin up one band name. Richie Blackmore decided to suggest a name that was based on his grandmother's favorite song, Peter DeRose's Deep Purple. Needless to say, that one was the winning choice. So it's not even named after the color. It's named after the song that's named after the color. A song that I don't know if they ever even played or covered. But anyway, with a lineup and a name under their belt, they get to work on their first album.
Heck yeah.
It was called Shades of Deep Purple. Good thing they picked Deep Purple to be their band name, or that would have been a strange title.
Yeah, imagine if it was Shades of Roundabout.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. Or Shades of Deep Purple and their name was still Roundabout. Either way, that's a bad choice.
What would be the worst color to have accidentally named themselves and then release an album called Shades of?
It's brown.
Shades of Brown?
It's pretty bad.
Shades of Deep Brown?
Yeah, that'd be unfortunate. But they released Shades of Deep Purple in July of 1968 in the U.S.
Hey, not foreshadowing anything, but if I don't like this album, maybe I would think it's a couple shades of deep brown.
Maybe. I don't know. I hope not. I hope it at least stays purple.
Purple's like royal, right? It's like first place. Like first place ribbons are purple.
I think they're blue. I mean, blue ribbon is like a...
Oh, okay, there's the blue, but there's also purple, which is premier. It's even better than blue.
That's true.
A lot of times reserved for grand champions
and
or
royalty.
Overall first places.
Yeah.
This album's trying to be a deep purple for me, but it might be a deep brown. That's what we're going to find out if you stay tuned.
I guess.
After these commercials.
No. After the rest of the podcast.
Which is just one big commercial for us.
No, I mean, if you're listening to the episode, you're already here for us. It's kind of more of a commercial for the album.
And technically, I guess, Deep Purple.
For Machine Head, really.
It's advertising for our other episodes. If you've enjoyed this one so much, go check out our other ones.
It's true.
We literally plug ourselves at the end of every episode.
Touche. Can't argue with that. Also, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you're listening right now. There's an early episode called Action. That's rare. The opportunity presented itself. Now we're a commercial. Oh, no.
Well, that's how we get our heroes to take action, right? You gotta have the call to action at the beginning so that the hero starts their journey.
That's true. What if Frodo got the ring at the end of the book? It wouldn't make any sense. Anyway, Shades of Deep Purple. It did actually perform pretty well. Their first album peaked at number 24 on the pop albums chart. Singles like Hush hit number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 in America, and it sent them on tour in support of Cream with Eric Clapton. Their second album came out later the same year, in October, not much later. I mean, July to October for their first 2 albums is a pretty breakneck pace. It did okay. Their third self-titled record appeared in June of 1969, again less than a year after their first album came out, and it featured the song called April. Funny because it came out in June. That, though, their third album decidedly underperformed. But that's Deep Purple Mark I. That's the last work that they would do together as their first iteration. They did some soul searching, and they opted to replace Evans and Simper to better match the trajectory that they had in mind for where the group was headed. So that brings us to Deep Purple Mark II, which is the lineup that would go on to release Machine Head. This iteration of the group would last until 1973, and that's Blackmore, Lord, Pace, and then vocalist Ian Gillan and bassist Roger Glover, who came from the band Episode 6. Mark II is generally considered to be the most successful version of Deep Purple, both critically and commercially. Mark II set out on singles right away. They got to work so fast, in fact, that Simper didn't even realize he had been replaced until the band had recorded their next single without him. He came in and was like, "Hey guys, when are we gonna record the next single? I'm ready to get going." And they said, "Oh buddy, sorry man, we already
about that.
we already kind of did it without you. Here's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out." That's unfortunate. Meanwhile, John Lord is also writing really cool stuff in this period. He wrote a 3-movement concerto that was performed by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra at Royal Albert Hall. You know, lots of interesting side projects for the Deep Purple gang. Mark II's first record was In Rock, which came out in 1970 and has a really, really great album cover that features the band as Mount Rushmore. I like it a lot because, you know, they're carved in rock. It's a visual pun. They finally start to see a little progress on their home turf. You know, a lot of their success had been in the US, across the pond to this point, but with In Rock, they cracked into the UK's top 10 for the first time, and they really started to shape and define the direction that heavy metal was heading. They started to rise to the forefront of that unholy trinity of British heavy metal in the late 70s, or however specific it was. They also became very well known for their loud live shows. I can't even emphasize enough how loud Deep Purple is. In 1975, they actually set the Guinness World Record for the loudest band.
Whoa. That's actually crazy.
We just actually, last week, had a record about the loudest snorer.
Yeah.
But these are the world record for the loudest band.
That's crazy.
Maybe they snore the loudest too. I know.
How loud? How do you get that?
Turn up the amplifiers.
Like, what's the record? How loud were they?
Yeah, Deep Purple earned the record for a 1972 show at London's Rainbow Theatre. It was measured at 117 decibels. And it was, wow, so loud that it rendered 3 audience members unconscious.
Oh, gosh.
They knocked out their fans because it was so loud. For reference, they played at 117 decibels. 120 decibels is the noise level of thunder. 110 is like someone shouting in your ear. So imagine going to a concert and for hours, someone stands right next to you and yells in your ear. A chainsaw is 120. An ambulance siren is 120. Factory machinery is only 100.
That's crazy.
So that's pretty loud. That's where the band is. Deep Purple also got to be known for being wizards at improv on their instruments. They were the best of the best at making stuff up. John Lord actually, he explained, "We took from jazz, we took from old-fashioned rock and roll, we took from the classics. Richie and myself used to swap musical jokes and attacks. He would play something and I'd have to see if I could match it. That provided a sense of humor, a sense of tension to the band, and a sense of what the heck's gonna happen next. The audience didn't know, and 9 times out of 10, neither did we." So their concerts become this raucous, free-spirited, just jam session. And that's an energy that they started to bring to their music and their recorded albums as well. Their second Mark II album and their 5th overall was called Fireball, and it came out in 1971. Fireball took them all the way to the top of the UK albums chart for the first time. And of course, they didn't just sit back on their haunches. Within weeks of Fireball's release, they were already adding songs from their next album into the live set. No chill, no slowing down. And all of that is the lead up to today's record, Machine Head. 6 albums into their career in like less than 5 years. Deep Purple wants to mix it up, and kind of progress away from their studio sound and again, move towards that live show vibe that they've really become iconic for. So they booked time with a mobile recording studio that was built inside a truck that was previously used by the Rolling Stones. I didn't know about that. The same mobile studio has actually also been used by Fleetwood Mac, The Who, Lou Reed, Bob Marley, Led Zeppelin, Motorhead, Iron Maiden, Bad Company, and a lot more have used this Rolling Stone studio. The reason they kind of wanted to do that was because they recently discovered some income tax loopholes that they could take advantage of if they managed to record outside of the UK. So they made a plan to record their next album in Montreux, Switzerland, at the Montreux Casino. They actually knew the owner and they struck a deal that would let them perform at the casino once it was open for the season. So the original concept for Machine Head was to record half of it as a recorded album and then open up the casino for live performances, record those, and then turn Machine Head into a double album where half of it was live. Really cool concept. Did not come to fruition because right before their scheduled time at the casino, Frank Zappa is playing a show at the Montreux Casino. He and his band are having just the best time in the world. And it gets a little out of hand, and the casino kind of, a little bit, burns completely to the ground.
That's crazy.
It is. A fan of Frank Zappa's, in a stroke of absolute genius, brought a flare gun to the show, fired it straight at the ceiling, right? Genius. And actually, for a while, they didn't think anything happened, right? The flare just kind of disappeared into the rafters and nobody thought anything of it. But soon enough, there was smoke coming down from the ceiling, big whoops kind of moment. The incident was actually the inspiration for Deep Purple's best known song, the legendary Smoke on the Water, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Apparently they saw that happen from their hotel across the lake.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Yep. So that's where you get the smoke on the water and the fire in the sky.
That's insane.
From the concert venue, just getting obliterated.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And actually, this story kind of reminds me of Motley Crue and all their fire shenanigans and flare gun antics. I mean, fitting that the band's sound kind of reminds me of Motley Crue, too. It's wild. They actually even included a picture of the casino on fire in the gatefold of Machine Head, so everyone could see the smoke on the water for themselves. So Deep Purple has to pivot, right? Change of plans. The recording studio is in ashes on the ground. What do we do? They tried out a nearby theater for a recording session, but it was way too close to civilization, and if you can believe it, they got kicked out for noise complaints. Luckily, though, Switzerland in the winter is pretty cold and pretty snowy, so they managed to find a hotel that was closed for the season, and they were able to record in there for the first 3 weeks in December of 1971. They did bring along that Rolling Stone mobile recording studio, and they set it up outside the lobby, and they put all their recording equipment in the first floor bedrooms, which means they would have to go inside, they would play their part, and then they would have to walk all the way back outside to the truck to hear what they had done. They had to keep going back and forth, and climb over balconies. It was a whole mess. Eventually, they got so tired of it, they just stopped listening to playbacks. They just did each part a few times until they were happy enough with it on its own, and they went, one of those will be fine. I don't need to hear them all get played back. They actually, did all kinds of stuff to make this work. They put mattresses along the walls to help absorb some of the echoes. They even set up their own closed-circuit TV system in the hotel so that they could communicate with the engineer from rooms and rooms away. All in all, the process of recording Machine Head proved really fun and really rewarding for the band. Blackmore said, "I didn't like Fireball very much," their previous record. He said, "We were just working too much. But we had about a month off before Machine Head, which allowed me to get my head together and write some more stuff." He said with Machine Head, on the other hand, everything was natural and it all worked. In recent years, actually, Ian Gillan looked back and reflected that Machine Head was refined and historic, and he said it produced several songs that the band still performs on tour. And out of 7 songs total, several that are your greatest hits that you still play is pretty solid. So that's the recording process for Machine Head. The album came out on March 30th, 1972, and they decided to call it Machine Head because of the tuning knobs that were on Roger Glover's bass. They're called Machine Heads because of the way that they work. It's a cool name, cool mechanic to tighten strings, right? You crank it and the machine head, the gears, tighten the string and tune it. The back cover of Machine Head is actually an image of the headstock of his bass with the tuning knobs visible. So that's cool. Machine Head really continued the group's expanding foray into progressive heavy metal, and it turned out to be a really big hit with fans and critics. AllMusic and Music Hound both rank it at 5 stars. The Daily Vault gave it an A grade. And BBC and Rolling Stone both deemed it favorable with a U.
Oh.
British favorable. Machine Head also peaked at number 1 on the UK albums chart in its second week, and it stayed there for 2 consecutive weeks on its way to 3 weeks total at the top. In the US, Machine Head hit number 34 initially, but was boosted up to number 7 once Smoke on the Water became a significant hit. The record would actually be on the Billboard charts for more than 2 years in America, and it also proved to be a chart topper in Canada, the Netherlands, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, and it landed in the top 10 in Austria, Italy, Norway, Sweden, and Japan. Actually, Deep Purple would undertake their first Japanese tour shortly after Machine Head came out, so this kind of gained them a new fan base. In 1989, some 16, 17 years after its release, Kerrang! Ranked Machine Head the 35th greatest heavy metal album of all time. Q Magazine recognized it as one of the 50 heaviest albums of all time, and Ozzy Osbourne, Prince of Darkness, has cited it as one of his own personal favorites. Also, fun little Machine Head trivia tidbit. Since its release, it's gotten a couple of special reissues. Most recently, they got a Super Deluxe edition in late March of 2024, not too many months ago. Machine Head, obviously, is still a very relevant, significant album, and that's really cool. So that's Machine Head. As for the rest of Deep Purple's career, Mark II would be around for one final record, 1973's Who Do We Think We Are. It spawned the hit single Woman from Tokyo. Again, Japanese fan base, Japanese tour, Woman from Tokyo. And it was their fastest album to reach gold. But with an album every year, right, and sometimes multiple albums within a year, and as many as 4 international tours per album cycle, Deep Purple is getting fatigued. Tensions are running high. Blackmore got sick for a long time. Things just happen, right? Things just start to fall apart a little bit. At the end of the day, Ian Gillan left the band, and bassist Glover was also cut loose. John Lord actually thought the band was in its prime, and he was disappointed because he thought tearing things up at that particular moment was the biggest shame in rock and roll, as he says. He said, God knows what we would have done over the next 3 or 4 years. We were writing so well. But what's done was done. Mark III came up next with the records Burn and Stormbringer, and Blackmore decided to break off on a solo career with a little side project he called Rainbow. And then we get to Mark IV, the final iteration of Deep Purple before an 8-year hiatus. They only released one record called Come Taste the Band. Again, good thing they're Deep Purple and not Deep Brown. But that was their last record before they broke up in July of 1976. In 1984, though, the Mark II lineup reunited for a world tour and even more music. They actually put out 2 more records. So the band's been going on since then. Today, they are on Deep Purple Mark IX.
Wow.
Which is wild. Yeah. I mean, we only talked about the first 4 in this episode. There's 5 more Deep Purples. The purple gets a lot deeper.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of shocked that I'm saying this about Deep Purple and not about a different band, but this is like the Iron Mans of the metal world. They're like Iron Man with all the different Mark versions of the suit.
Yeah, they keep changing and refining.
I would have expected to make that joke about Iron Maiden, but I guess...
Oh, Iron Maiden or Black Sabbath, who did the song Iron Man?
No.
Oh. Okay. just Iron Maiden. Nope, not them. Just Deep Purple. They're the Iron Man of music.
Of metal.
Yes. So Deep Purple Mark IX is where we're at. Ian Pace is still around, of course, but Roger Glover has returned on bass, and Ian Gillan is back on vocals. Don Airey has played keys with the band since 2002, and Simon McBride joined the band on guitar in 2022. So there you have it. To date, Deep Purple has released a whopping 22 studio albums. Their most recent will come out like a week from now when we're recording this episode in July of 2024. So if you're listening to this episode, that album will have been out for a couple weeks. Go check that out. They've also released an even whoppinger 43 live albums. 43. Take their number of studio albums, double them, and that's how many live albums they've released.
Wow.
I know. An iconic live band. If I ever get the chance to see Deep Purple, I'm gonna go. And I'm gonna bring earplugs because I don't want a jet engine knocking me unconscious in the middle of the show. But as far as live albums go, they haven't put out anything new in that category since 2021. As far as their awards and accolades go, Deep Purple has a lot. I think one of their biggest feathers in their cap is probably just all the people they've influenced. People like Queen, Aerosmith, Metallica, Bon Jovi, Europe, Van Halen, Alice in Chains, Def Leppard, many, many more cite Deep Purple as a significant influence on their music. They've also, in terms of tangible awards, they've earned a Legend Award at the World Music Awards in 2008, they earned the Innovator Award at the Classic Rock Awards in 2011, and they earned the prestigious Ivor Novello Award for International Achievement in 2019. Deep Purple also actually has a long and complicated history with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Seems like prog bands always do, right? Yes had a lot of trouble. Deep Purple's having a lot of trouble. I don't even think the Nice is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't think Rush had any trouble. King Crimson's in. I don't know. You get the idea. But Deep Purple has a long history. They have been eligible since 1993, but they weren't even nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame until 2012, where they ranked second in a fan vote, and they were still not included. Artists were pretty universally put off by that. They all expressed disdain that Deep Purple wasn't in the lineup. Everybody from Rush's Geddy Lee, to Kiss's Gene Simmons, to Slash from Guns N' Roses, to Chris Jericho, the professional wrestler, everyone spoke out and said, hey, where's Deep Purple? Come on.
I'm sorry, don't you mean Chris Jericho of the American heavy metal band Fozzy?
No, I don't, but
You do, it's the same guy.
Yeah,
it's the same guy.
Well, that's not what I meant, but that may also be true.
Yeah, that's probably why he had something to say about about a heavy metal band.
Yeah, that would make sense. But, he can have an opinion as a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
But he did have something to say about it. Deep Purple missed the induction again in 2013, but finally, in 2015, a dozen years after they were eligible, they were nominated for a third time and finally earned induction.
Do they do that every year or every other year?
No, they do it every year.
Oh, so they didn't just miss it in 2013, but also in 2014?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
But they weren't, nominated, I think, in 2014. I feel like you have to be nominated and then inducted.
Dang, so they went from nominated but not inducted to not even nominated to inducted in a 3-year span?
I think so.
What a roller coaster.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame roller coaster is a brutal one. And even then, even after they got inducted, they had a lot of very yes-like conflicts about who would be inducted, who would get to play with the band at the ceremony.
Yeah.
You go through 9 marks. Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and not a single one of their marks included a mark? That's just sad.
Like a person named Mark?
Yeah. I don't know, you said they went through 9 marks, and it made me think of 9 guys named Mark got kicked out of the band.
9 guys. They couldn't find a mark that worked.
They couldn't hit the mark.
No, because that would be like assault.
Oh.
But yeah, that's Deep Purple. They made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Whatever mark it was, even markless. The last thing I'll say about Deep Purple is that genuinely, they have toured more than almost any band we have ever talked about. Deep Purple has headlined 31 tours in their 56-year existence, minus the 8-year hiatus, minus some COVID years. You could probably safely call it 31 tours in 47 years. They're constantly on the road. So yeah, that's where we're at. And now, it's time to play a little factor spin with Mr. Deep Purple himself, the Mixtaper. How's he feeling? Again, he's got a ton of people to choose from here.
He sure does.
A lot of facts and spins to lie about.
We'll see who he chose. Maybe he chose Mark.
I know he didn't. There wasn't a Mark in Deep Purple. 9 of them, but none of them.
It's like a riddle. Who has 9 marks, but yet none?
You're right. That is a very Trollbridge kind of riddle. The Sphinx. The answer is Deep Purple. If you're ever questioned in the woods by a mystical being, and that's what they ask, now you know. Well, let's get the Mixtaper on in here.
Let's get him out here.
Let's do it.
Hey, it's me, the Mixtaper.
Oh, hello. Mixtaper, how are you?
Feeling pretty deep.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
I can tell you don't want to give me the satisfaction of laughing at this, but I'm going to keep doing it till you do.
Well, mostly that's why I'm not going to laugh at it, because I just want to see how long you can talk in the deep voice, so you could be Deep Purple.
I just heard you chuckle in the middle of that sentence, so I got what I wanted.
You're free.
Yeah, I've got some fun stuff. I also had fun this week. Got some fun stuff to talk about. Got some great titles here.
Oh, I'm so stoked.
From my facts?
Titles are concerning, but I'm sure you got lots of fun stuff, and I am excited about it.
Let's jump right into it with Jesus was part of the band.
Well, you really are jumping right into it. We're talking about Jesus Christ, of Christianity.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. How is he a part of Deep Purple? He's not on the list of members on Wikipedia.
Well, because he's a superstar.
Oh, because he's a superstar. This is a fact about Jesus Christ Superstar, like the show.
Like the musical?
Yeah, that's a problem. You know what? I have not seen Jesus Christ Superstar.
Really?
Yeah, I meant to watch the one they did with like John Legend or whoever. See, here's my thing about musicals, okay? Just a little tangent aside. I don't like to listen to the soundtrack from musicals until I can watch the whole production and the whole show
I know.
and get the whole context of everything. So I knew it was popular and I've wanted to check out the soundtrack and stuff, but I haven't had the chance because I haven't had the chance to see the full live show. Anyway, so is someone from Deep Purple cast in a production of Jesus Christ Superstar?
Indeed.
Okay, who's that?
Ian Gillan.
Ian Gillan. And what part does he play?
He was the first ever Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, like the original? Is it like a Broadway show? Is he the OG?
OG.
Or I guess the West End. Is it British?
He was the first Jesus Christ in the rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar by Andrew Lloyd Webber.
He's at least the second one overall of all time, but maybe the first one in the musical. Did he audition for this, or did they seek him out and say, hey, that guy from Deep Purple?
Nope. They hand-picked him. Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim
Wow.
Rice hand-picked Ian Gillan.
Okay. What drew them to him? What was the appeal, aside from him being a pretty good prog metal singer?
They thought he would make a great rock opera, Jesus Christ. He's got the hair for it.
Fair enough. Yeah, he sure does, but anyone can really grow the hair for it. When did this happen?
1970.
Ooh, that's like early on into his Deep Purple tenure. He joined the band in 69. Machine Head didn't even come out until 1972. They picked him before Smoke on the Water was even around.
That's probably why they got him, right? I mean, wasn't that... He was like famous enough, but not famous enough yet.
He wasn't in high demand. Okay. I think I'm gonna say this one is a spin.
What makes you say that?
Well, last week we talked about a guy named Mark Campbell who had to choose between soups. And I couldn't get over the fact that his name was Campbell and the fact was about soup. And that wasn't your intent, right? That wasn't a thing you did intentionally. It just happened and
Sure.
it was coincidentally correct. This time I can't get over the fact that you led in with Jesus was a part of Deep Purple, and one of the primary members for most of their time is named John Lord. And so in the back of my head, I can't help but think that you took John Lord and were like, how can I make a Lord fact? And then went, oh, Jesus Christ Superstar, like the musical that came out right around when Deep Purple was formed. And you said, oh, but I can't make John Lord be Jesus. That's way too on the nose. And he might figure it out. And I, of course, might be totally wrong, and none of this even crossed your mind a little bit. And maybe even Gillan was even Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar, and this will be true, and I'll just look dumb for not believing it for such a silly reason. But I can't in good conscience call this a fact. So I think this is a spin, and you're going to have to really tell me if I'm onto something here or if that's just all in my head.
Know me too freaking well. Holy crap. Oh,
Really?
dang. This is such a true fact.
Oh, no.
I got to.
I knew it. Deep down, I kind of knew it, but I couldn't. You see how I couldn't let that happen?
Yeah.
Wow.
They actually tried to get him for the movie as well after it was so successful, but he turned down the offer because in 1971 and 1972, Deep Purple had a very busy concert schedule.
As always, yeah.
And he chose that over the movie.
So he was only in the stage show of Jesus Christ Superstar for like a year or two?
I don't even know if he was actually in the stage show or if he was just, I think it was an album first.
That was just like a recording?
I think it started as just a album that was released and then it got turned into an actual musical after it got popular. I could be wrong about that, but
Interesting.
I think that's how it started, which also explains how they got him a little bit because they just needed him to come record the songs and then he was done and go back to Deep Purple. But
Yeah, because that's the other thing I kind of thought too. I mean, beyond the whole coincidence of John Lord, I also was like, man, they released 4 albums that year,
yeah.
right? Like they did so much work in 1969 and 70, and
Yep.
that was a tough sell. But you know what? The whole overanalyzing potential puns thing worked for me last week and against me this week, so we're neutrally buoyant.
Yeah, so it all worked out. Yep.
Also, side note, if you do like Andrew Lloyd Webber, we did a whole episode on Phantom of the Opera.
Sure did. Go check it out. I missed it. It was a good one. I listened to it.
No, you were here. You were on it. You hosted it.
No, yeah, I hosted it. Yeah, Connor missed it, but I don't feel bad about it.
Sorry, yeah, it's been a minute.
Ready for fact number 2?
Yeah, I'm ready for fact number 2.
Judas was part of the band.
I'm picking up on a pattern here. Judas was part of the band. Which Judas is that? Is this another person that was just cast in Jesus Christ Superstar, the album, that played Judas? Because they just cast all of Deep Purple?
No, come on. What do you take me for? A hack?
Not all the time.
I thought about really making this a convoluted title by saying that, like, one of the band members was betrayed by another one and then getting you to the fact that I was making a Judas reference.
That
to
one was
the
Jesus and one was Judas?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I thought about making it that convoluted, but I decided just for the equally as funny and more to the point, repeat of the fact, but change one word.
Of course. Who's Judas?
Judas, in this instance, I am referring to the band Judas Priest.
That's kind of what I thought, but I wasn't sure. You know, I don't know a lot about Judas Priest, which is unfortunate again. You keep picking things that I know of and not about. What about Judas Priest? Tell me more.
Just that band member Roger Glover became their producer.
Oh, interesting. I kind of like that. I think I know like 3 or 4 Judas Priest songs, not many, but I feel like their style would be very complementary to what Deep Purple's up to. When did he decide to do this?
In 1977.
Hiatus time. Well, I mean, Roger Glover's hiatus from the band anyway.
He needed something to do.
Yeah. How long was he their producer? Like all time or for 1 or 2 albums?
I don't see where he ever left, so I assume he continued doing it.
Whoa. Okay.
Up until, it was like in 1991 they ended things.
Gotcha. See, I don't know much about Judas Priest.
I don't know. I'm going to say indefinitely because I don't see an end date.
Just because you are indefinite about it. I like this. I think this is a fact. However, also super like you just to put a Judas fact in here because there's a Jesus fact in here and that one was true. But I'm not going to overthink things. I'm
not going to overthink things.
I've already ruined myself for this episode. So I'm just going to let this one be a fact.
Fair enough. This is a true fact.
Woohoo!
But I wanted it to be a spin. I found this fact Googling things about Judas to make a Judas joke after the Jesus joke.
Oh, and you found out that it was true.
I found out that I could also make it true. So I said, I'll make it true and just hope he thinks I would try to find a Judas fact and shove it in here.
See? And I almost did, but I learned my lesson with the first fact.
Yep.
You know, when I said you had 800 people to choose from that have been a part of the 9 marks of Deep Purple, I really didn't think we'd start out with Jesus and Judas. Like, 2 of the people that were never in Deep Purple.
Oh, it looks like maybe it was only for the Sin After Sin album? I don't know. It depends on how you interpret this Wikipedia page. I don't know.
Got it. But he was there for a while anyway.
He was at least there for Sin After Sin.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell me about when Moses was a part of the band or whatever you're about to say next. I don't know.
No, now, I know you said you thought you were picking up on a theme. Unfortunately, that is where the theme dies.
Oh.
Instead, we're going to talk about 2 band performances.
Okay. Iconic ones?
One of them's pretty iconic.
Okay, and the other one's just normal.
It's not normal, but...
Sure. Are we starting with the iconic one or the less iconic one?
I'm not going to say. I'll let you decide.
We'll have to figure it out for ourselves.
The band has performed in a tornado.
That's awesome. It would have been a cool fact on the Twisted Sister episode, too.
Twister Sister?
Yeah. Okay, so Deep Purple's performed in a tornado.
Yeah.
In a real tornado?
Real to the people.
Real to the people in a tornado that was real to the people? I don't know what that means.
I just really didn't want to say no to that.
Yeah, well, you could be a little more specific, I guess. Who are the people that the tornado is real to?
Well, people in a movie.
Yeah, okay. See, that's what a real tornado to characters in a movie.
Yeah.
Do they appear in the movie or is there music in the soundtrack? Well, you said they perform.
They appear.
Okay. How so?
On a TV screen.
Oh, so they're not even physically there. Someone's watching them play on TV during a tornado?
It's a little more nuanced than that, but that's the gist, yeah.
What's the nuance?
Well, first off, the movie we're referring to is the most famous tornado movie of all time. Twister.
See, that's what I thought. Yeah. Oh, and Twister 2 just came out, which is a real reason for me to disbelieve this. But I'm not going to overthink it. We're going to keep going. They're in Twister.
Yeah. Starring Philip Seymour Hoffman.
What song's playing on the TV?
It's Child in Time.
Okay. I don't know much about that song, but it's definitely one of their bigger hits.
Yeah.
Why specifically is it relevant to the movie?
Well, as he's driving, he flips it on and he plays the footage on the TV is from Deep Purple's appearance at the California Jam in 1974. And ironically enough, Child in Time was not performed during that set, but that's the song they dub over the thing for the movie.
I see.
And then he broadcasts that song out his like siren speakers he has on the top of the van as he's driving down the road.
To like warn people of the tornado or why?
No, just because it's an epic song to play as you're driving down the road.
As you're driving down the road, okay.
He's a storm chaser in the movie.
Got it.
So, out there storm chasing.
As one does. Yeah, I am tempted to overthink this because Twister is so relevant again right now, but I'm not going to.
Are you going to lock in an answer? Because we haven't gotten to the in a tornado part.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to lock in an answer yet then.
Okay. This would sound like you were headed towards, so I just wanted to...
I was. Well, it sounded like you were just trying to say that they were on TV in a movie about tornadoes in a tornado.
No. Because the scene in question is like them out in the car storm chasing, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm watching the scene as I describe it.
Oh.
He's like blaring it. It's like a caravan of storm chasing vehicles, and then have you seen Twister?
No.
Oh.
So it's another one that I'm really
Darn.
flying blind.
I was gonna be like, you should know this scene. It's the iconic scene where like the tornado changes direction on them and like sucks up all the vans.
Hey, spoiler alert.
Sorry.
If I have seen it, I watched it in like 4th grade.
Gotcha.
So I don't think I've seen it.
But yeah, it's the tornado like goes off path on them and like sucks them all up. They fly. It's the one that has the cow in it too. Like the vans are getting short, and then there's the cow. You've seen the image of the cow.
I've at least seen it referenced. Or is that in The Wizard of Oz?
It might also be in The Wizard of Oz, for I know, but it's...
This might be a reference to The Wizard of Oz in Twister.
Yeah, it honestly might be. But it's the van swirling around in the cow. And Child in Time by Deep Purple is still blaring out of the van, but it's just the song at that point.
During the iconic scene in the movie.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like it. I don't know if I believe it, but I like it. And I think it's true. So I'm going to call it a fact.
Fair enough. This is... a spin.
Oh, I should have known a fact about a tornado would be a spin. It's about spinning air.
It's almost true, though. It's almost true.
Yeah.
And it's why I had to cut you off from locking in an answer.
Oh, you wanted to make it fake.
Well, it was going to be fake from the get-go. I always had it written as fake. I just hadn't gotten to the fake part yet. When it sounded like you were about to lock in, I was like, hold up.
Got duped.
Yeah, it is in the movie. He does do all the stuff I said where he blares it out of the speakers, but it's not during a scene where all the vans get sucked up into the tornado. Their weather radar's like, oh, a tornado's getting ready to form. So they're all like gearing up and going out to chase it. And so as they're all like pumped up, ready to go, that song's playing.
I see. Darn it. Well, I was really expecting that to be true.
I know, I'm sorry.
At least it was true when I thought it was true.
I mean, you thought it was true when it wasn't true, so.
Well, at the end I said I don't even know if I believe it, and that would have been smart. I should have been a little more skeptical. Good music for the vibe of that scene. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's probably the non-iconic performance, since it's a dub of them on a TV screen for 0.5 seconds.
Well, that's for you to decide. After you hear this next one.
Maybe it was an iconic performance for the people, for whom the tornado was real. Real to the people. Good grief.
The band once performed for a toilet and its father.
This is one of those titles, huh? This is one of those titles you were really excited about.
Yep.
Deep Purple once performed for a toilet and its father. And you didn't... This got to be related to the Deep Brown jokes earlier. Got to be related.
It's not. You're the one that picked Brown.
I know, but there's some kind of coincidence. I don't even know how to ask this. Who's the toilet? Are we talking about... Let me ask this. Is this a flashback to our Metallica episode when we talked about the Lars Ulrich-shaped toilet? Are you trying to tell me that the band performed for Lars Ulrich and his father? Or is this different?
You nailed it. This is absolutely a deep cut reference to Lars Ulrich toilet, one of our most infamous facts.
One of the weirdest toilets I've ever seen. So we did Metallica on episode like 44 or 45. We talked about Master of Puppets. And some really big Metallica fan out there and some craftsman working on his skills molded a toilet into the shape of drummer Lars Ulrich, pantsless as a toilet, and you'd sit on his lap and do your business in it. And
it's amazing.
It's probably, admittedly, a better toilet than I could make, but it's not the most accurate or lifelike representation of Lars. So, title aside, Deep Purple performed for Lars Ulrich and his father.
Yep, little Lars Ulrich and his father.
Well, little, so he is a kid.
Yeah, when he was
Back when he was just a wee urinal.
when he was 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
It's a urinal.
What's the occasion? Is it a show his dad took him to go see? Is he a fan of Deep Purple, or is this like his moment of discovery?
It was their famous show in Copenhagen in 1972.
No way. What was so famous about this show? Maybe I'm not familiar.
I'm not either. The quote I have just says that he was talking about the famous show in Copenhagen in 1972.
Oh, and he was there. And so Lars Ulrich, he's European, right? And came over to America to be in Metallica, if I'm remembering right.
I believe so.
So it's not like as wild or far-fetched that his dad would take him all the way over to see Deep Purple. He didn't have quite as far to go. What did he think? Did he like it, the show?
He said the show blew his mind.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Blew his eardrums out, too.
It blew his mind because, quote, the music was fast, loud, and different. And the most impressive part was the double bass drumming on the song Fireball.
So it really influenced his actual drumming.
Yeah.
I mean, the double bass drum, that's a metal music staple nowadays, and has been for a long time. But it totally makes sense that he would see that and admire it. Has he, since he's become a famous drummer, has he had the chance to meet the band and talk to them?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah. Okay. I like this. I think that's a really cool fact. I think the title is a bit much. But I did even say earlier, in my own spiel about Deep Purple, that Metallica names them as a notable influence. So either you did a good job at looking through my notes and picking out relevant things that I might believe, or this is true.
Hey, don't overthink it.
I'm not going to overthink it. I think this is a layup. I think this is an easy peasy true fact.
This is indeed an easy peasy true fact.
Oh, you scared me. Usually when you go right into it like that, that means you're about to do the opposite. True fact, Lars Ulrich was at the Copenhagen show.
Yeah. I was really banking on Twister and Jesus to get you because I knew the other two you'd get.
Well, you did right. Twister and Jesus got me.
I went into this knowing the best I could do was a 50-50.
Impressive, though. And I don't know. If no one in the band had been named John Lord, I might have called that one a fact, too. But that was really good luck on your part.
Yeah, but I figured if you called that one a fact, you might call the other one a spin.
True.
I was kind of figuring I'd get you on one of the two of them and not the other.
Well, we were so close to an all-fact week this week.
We were.
The only thing that was a spin was the extent of their music usage in Twister.
Uh-huh.
Everything else was true.
Yep.
That's really cool.
A lot of cool stuff. And there were so many other cool things, some mixable mentions.
We don't ever get mixable mentions. This is new. I like this.
Sometimes I save other things. If they're big enough artists, I think we might do it again. I don't foresee us coming back to Deep Purple.
Well, you could turn them into spins for other artists, too.
Not these ones, because it's a lot about the people they influenced.
Well, that's fair.
I went through several different final facts here before finding Toilet Man himself.
Don't call Lars Ulrich Toilet Man. But it's a pretty atrocious toilet.
Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden, the first album he ever bought was Deep Purple's In Rock.
That's awesome.
Ian Gillan, Jesus himself, the superstar, also did lead vocals on a Black Sabbath album for them.
That's a wild one. I only ever really associate Black Sabbath with Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily accurate, but that's just how it is in my head.
Glenn Hughes was the bassist and backing vocalist for Deep Purple. Also, at one point, did lead vocals for Black Sabbath.
Oh.
I was going to bring a bunch of Black Sabbath-related facts at one point.
See, yeah, when I said that they're part of that unholy trinity of British late 70s heavy metal, they're all intertwined. It's all interconnected.
And then the other ones I was going to bring up were ones I couldn't confirm, but are cool if they are true. It kind of depends on how you view the timeline. But a lot of people seem to think that the song Hard Lovin' Man was the first speed metal song.
Oh, that is really cool.
Depending on how you classify a speed metal song.
This is the first speed metal podcast, too, depending on how you classify a speed metal podcast.
And then some people think Ian Gillan was the first metal screamer.
Oh.
But it also depends on how you line things up. Because he had some songs that were kind of screamy, but he didn't have his real first big scream song till Child in Time.
Sure. Well, that's why, I mean, you can hear it a little bit here on, like, Space Truckin.
Yeah.
And Come On, Come On. Like, he gets a little yelly.
So, like, if you count that, then yes. But if you don't really count it until Child in Time, then Black Sabbath beats him, and Ozzy Osbourne is the first.
Well, it's close.
So...
Also, here's a fun fact that I learned about Deep Purple.
Uh-huh.
It was only a one-time thing, but on tour one time, their keyboard parts were played by Adam Wakeman, the son of Yes keyboardist Rick Wakeman.
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Also, the Brooke Dickinson album, when he bought the first album in rock, it was because of the song Child in Time. So, like, the song from Twister was a pretty popular song.
Yeah, I would guess so.
But, yeah, and then, of course, I also found the Guinness Book of World Records fact and was sad to see it already in your rundown.
Well, you know, I gotta find stuff like that.
Sometimes you don't.
Well, but sometimes I do. But that is a cool fact.
And then I have one more mixable mention, but I'm going to pass it off to Connor and let him tell you when we get to the song.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Maybe I already know it. Who's to say?
You might.
Well, Mixtaper, it's been a blast. Thanks for a deeply purple week.
Anytime. Yeah.
Welcome back, Connor.
That was a good round of Factor Spin.
Yeah, I liked it. A good 50-50. It's some really interesting throwback facts and some tie-ins there. The facts all tied together nicely. And natural disasters. You know, that's always an interesting wild time. Well, let's talk about this album cover on Machine Head. I already talked about, you know, the gatefold and the back cover. The gatefold is the picture of the casino burning, smoke on the water. The back cover is the tuning pegs on the bass guitar with Machine Head knobs. The front cover is reflective and it's wobbly and, you know, kind of purplish, bluish tinted. Honestly, it's pretty clever. What's this cover look like to you?
I don't know. Let me look at it.
Please do.
To be honest, I don't think I bothered to look at it when I listened to this album.
Oh, yeah.
Very blurry.
Yes, it is. It's quite blurry. But what's it look like?
How was it made? I mean, it looks like it's like been machined into metal.
That is exactly how it was made. They took a polished sheet of metal and then they stamped.
Machine Deep Purple, Machine Head, and then took a picture of their reflection in it.
Yeah, they
right?
stamped the album title on it. And
oh, okay. I was gonna say stamped. I thought maybe it looked stamped, but a couple of the letters made me think maybe machined.
well, embossed, or they impressed the metal with their band name and the album title, and then they held it up in front of the group like a mirror and took a picture of their reflection.
Yep.
And since it's very, very hard to take a clean picture of a mirror, right, you can actually see photographer Shepard Sherbel down below the word head on the cover. That's that big dark blob.
Yeah, I wondered if that's what that dark blob was.
That's his camera. And that's really cool. I think it's a really interesting album cover. I also, just the concept of people trying to take pictures of mirrors is very funny. There's like a subreddit for people trying to sell mirrors on Facebook Marketplace or something. And it's a bunch of awkward pictures of like them in the mirror trying not to be, or like holding out their hand. Or it's really good. Worth a look if you get the chance.
I love it.
But that's the album cover. Really cool. And I mean, for a metal band, you can't get much more metal than metal. So there.
It's true.
But we've only got 7 tracks to talk about. I suppose we should get right into it.
Let's do it.
Machine Head kicks off with the album's 3rd single and its 2nd most popular hit, Highway Star.
Great start.
Great start, right? What a cool sound. It's fast-paced. It's a song about driving, being on the road, and rocking out.
You got a fast car.
You got a highway star. No, it's not like that at all. They actually did write this song on a band road trip in 1971. They were actually traveling with a bunch of journalists, right? People who were writing reviews and stuff about them. And one of them asked Blackmore, they said, hey, what's your process? Like, how do you write songs? He said, like this. And he picks up the guitar and just starts playing the riff that will become Highway Star off the top of his head on the spot.
Wow.
I know. Gillen starts singing along. He starts adding some silly improv lyrics. We're on the road. We're a rock and roll band. And they cleaned up the song, the lyrics and the arrangement. They played it live at their very next gig the same night.
Wow.
They just spontaneously, he said, how do you write a song? He's like, watch this. And boom, Highway Star was born. It's such a rock and roll kind of song. This song in particular is the one that really reminded me the most. It's like Kickstart My Heart, right? It sounds a lot like it in just the power chords and the yelling, the screams, and just the general vibe of, you know, Kickstart My Heart like a motorcycle. Nobody's going to take my car. I'm going to race it to the ground. I'm going to break the speed of sound. Saw a lot of parallels there. I really like the way that they play with rhythm. You know, they get the verse in like a straight 4 kind of thing, but then the tempo kind of changes on I'm a highway star. It kind of breaks form.
Yeah.
And that really makes that little hook stand out.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
I like the solo at 2:30.
Yes. Well, so what's interesting about the guitar solos on this song is that Blackmore wanted to make the solos like very Bach inspired. Little classical music influence on your prog metal.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so they're very melodic and very, like, music theory wise, they're very advanced. And that's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. As a guitar guy, I mean, you can see why. I put this album randomly on the Albums of the Month playlist to get 7 more songs, and suddenly my ears were melting, and this was, like, incredible. I just was floored. Did this live up to any... I mean, what expectations did you have for Deep Purple? Did you know maybe Smoke on the Water early that, like, teed you up for what to expect?
I did know Smoke on the Water.
Okay, so you kind of knew, like, the rock and roll kind of style. You're a 70s rock guy, right? You talk all about all your classic rock. Does this hold up?
Yeah. Deep Purple wasn't a band I think I would have ever named, and I definitely didn't know about Smoke on the Water, but when I saw it, I was like, wait, do I know that song? I recognize that title, and then I got to it, and I went, oh, I do know this song. Mm-hmm. But Highway Star, pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah.
Didn't know it ahead of time.
No.
But, I mean, it made my top 3. We'll just spoil that right now.
Of 7 songs. Yeah, okay. The second most popular one is in your top 3. That's great. I think it's a high energy start to the album.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about a lot of the songs on this album. They're long, but they don't really feel it.
Yeah. This one didn't.
That's true. Most of them don't really feel it. Highway Star is a 6-minute song that goes by pretty quickly. And I think it's because of those guitar solos that they're so distinct and different and memorable, really. Plus, it's got a lot of lyrics. Some of the other songs, like, for example, Maybe I'm a Leo, up next, have a lot fewer lyrics. And maybe they feel a little longer, even though they're a little shorter. But yeah, track 2 is Maybe I'm a Leo. This one resonates with me because there's no maybe about it. I am a Leo. But actually, I also just really like this one. Leo is Gillen's astrological sign, actually. So he's a Leo too. The riff in this song that starts it off was pretty loosely based on John Lennon's diss track about Paul McCartney, How Do You Sleep? They especially like the way that it started on an offbeat instead of the first one.
I was about to, that was one of my first notes, was like, whoa. I didn't know it was like the only, I just thought it was notable that it started on an offbeat. I was like, that's different.
It is. It's not something you hear probably, I mean, not never, but not much.
Well, I looked it up and it says that like 99% of riffs start on the downbeat. I don't know how they figured that number out.
Because they just do. It's just the way it is. It's an easy, I mean, if you round, think of you listen to 100 songs. How many songs have this? We've done thousands of songs on this podcast, and this is the first song that's done that.
If I listen to 100 songs, and how many of them does this? Is this song here?
Maybe.
In the 100? Is this song in the 100?
Sure.
Then yes.
How many of them do this? Then yes?
Yes.
Oh.
Then yes, one. One does it.
Right, so then that's 99% of songs that don't.
Yeah, but if this one's not there, then 0%. It doesn't happen. The sun doesn't exist.
Well, but then this song clearly exists, so that doesn't...
Nope, can't be. The math says 0%.
Uh-huh. Maybe I'm a Leo. That's a fat-sounding guitar riff. I mean, it starts on an offbeat.
It's a fat with a PH.
It's a PH fat-sounding riff with the bass, and it's just loud, and I like it a lot. It's kind of got this swagger to it that Highway Star kind of... I mean, it's got the energy and the rock and roll. Maybe I'm a Leo has a lot more of like a groove to it, and I really can get into that. The working title of the song was One Just Before Midnight, but they changed it, and I think Maybe I'm a Leo works a lot better. I really like that concept. You know, maybe I'm a Leo, but I'm no lion. It's actually a really sad song, lyrically. I'm going through this hard situation. They've taken her away. Where is she? Wish that she was here. Wish she'd hold my hand and make me laugh, and maybe she'd understand why was I so cruel. He has caused this woman to leave him, but he's a Leo, not a lion, and he's hurting so bad. It's kind of like maybe blaming astrology for acting the way that he did, and then also being upset that he can't live up to all the characteristics he's supposed to have as a Leo and not be so emotional about it. Again, light on the lyrics. So, I mean, you get a lot of space for instrumentals in Maybe I'm a Leo, but boy, it's just fun. One of my favorites, I think, from Machine Head.
Yeah, this one felt a little long.
See, it's funny because it's like a minute shorter than Highway Star.
I know.
Minute and a half almost.
I think it was the lack of lyrics and the repetitivity of that riff.
It wears itself thin by the end.
5 minutes of that riff.
Yep, it's just over and over. You're right. but I really do like it. And honestly, it's just a tribute to their musicality that they can make such an interesting rhythmical change in the middle of the song. I mean, they did it on Highway Star too, but Maybe I'm a Leo also does it with the offbeat thing. And just kudos to them for drumming and playing their way through a song that is kind of like jarring in the way that it skips, but they do it so seamlessly. What did you think about Pictures of Home? Probably starts with some of the best drumming on the album. A nice little drum fill right off the jump.
Yeah.
The drum intro to the track actually had to get cut from the initial album, but they added it back in for the 25th anniversary reissue. So that's cool.
Oh, nice. Why did it get cut?
I think for time. And I don't know. I don't know if they cut it for time or just to make it a little tighter and more engaging, but glad they brought it back. I think Pictures of Home, you know, if Highway Star is a song that's going to remind me of Motley Crue, and Maybe I'm a Leo is a song that sounds like John Lennon talking about Paul McCartney, I feel like Pictures of Home is a song that kind of sounds like Iron Maiden to me. It reminds me of, you know, almost like a 2 minutes to midnight kind of thing. I like it a lot. You know, we talked about how Deep Purple is on the road all the time, and especially for this album, they're overseas, over a smaller sea, because, you know, they're just from England, but they're over in Switzerland and missing home. And so this song, Pictures of Home, is kind of a travelogue about their experience in Montreux as they traveled. Blackmore said that when Ian Gillan started writing about eagles and snow, the others thought he was crazy, but I said, let him go with it. I think it's great. And that's how we ended up with this song, Pictures of Home. I'm alone here with emptiness, eagles and snow, unfriendliness chilling my body and taunting me with pictures of home. It's again, kind of dark words wrapped up in a really rockin' package.
I like the lyrics on this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably maybe their most poetic point on the album. Everything feels like a metaphor, and it's chilling. I mean, the lyrics of this song sound like they could be in a Mixtaper episode. I've grown into a hero, but there's no worship. Where have they hidden my throne? I'm alone here, screaming out pictures of home. Oh, man.
Unfriendliness chilling my body and whispering pictures of home. Versus at the end, screaming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love it when they take a chorus and change a couple words to give a new meaning. You know, I love that.
Absolutely. Well, I think they did it pretty well right here.
I don't know why, but in my head finished your sentence as well. I think they did that just for you.
Yeah, they did. They put it here just for you. They knew you'd be thinking that one day, 50-some years in the future. Pictures of Home, I think that's one of its strengths, is that they have parts that repeat, but they don't repeat them very close together or very often.
Yeah.
So you can sing Pictures of Home 4 or 5 times, but it's spread out over the span of 5 minutes, and it's not so condensed as to get old. It's really cool. Also, fun fact about Pictures of Home, and probably most tracks on this album, but definitely Pictures of Home, every single band member gets a solo. You can tell that they really like rocking out and improv and just playing their instruments and jamming. I can't believe Pictures of Home, according to present-day streaming numbers, is the least popular song on the album.
Yeah, I know, right?
I am kind of surprised that it's not Never Before, the next track.
That's what I would have thought.
No, it's not that I dislike Never Before. I just don't like it as much as Pictures of Home. But Never Before, to its credit, was the first of 4 singles released. The band actually saw Never Before as the most commercial and accessible to casual fans. It's a really wild thing. I mean, when you think of Deep Purple, you think of Smoke on the Water, right? Nobody thinks of Never Before.
Yep.
But John Lord said, when we submitted Machine Head to the label, it was with a note that Never Before was to be the single. They wrote back, "You must be crazy. Smoke on the Water is the hit on the album," to which we replied, "You must be crazy. The hit is Never Before," which shows how much we knew, because we didn't even think it was single-worthy, much less the iconic anthem that it's become. So Never Before was almost the Deep Purple song we were all talking about. If they had their way...
Insane.
I know. I can't believe it.
What drugs were they on?
A few, but that's not the point. Never Before actually holds the record as the shortest song on this album by more than half a minute, so it's kind of got that working for it, but yeah. And it's not that it wasn't popular, right? It actually did hit number 35 in the UK, so it was a decently big hit, but it was not a very popular live track. In 43 live albums, there's only one live recording of Never Before, and even then... that came out actually before the album Machine Head did. And I think the last time the band even played Never Before live was in 2004, when they played through Machine Head in full. The closest approximation that I could find on Setlist FM, which is probably a little incomplete for a band that's been around since the 60s, but according to Setlist FM, probably the most complete aggregate stat there is, they've played Never Before 21 times.
That's crazy.
I mean, compare that to every other song on this album. Space Truckin' has more than 1,600 plays. Highway Star has 1,900. Smoke on the Water has 2,166. Like, that's 10 times more than they've played Never Before.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, it seems like they really came around on deciding this was not the single from the album. They pretty much ditched it as soon as it came out. And I don't hate it. I think it's a fine song. If this is the worst this album gets, it's a pretty strong record, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, a couple really cool instrumental parts in the middle of this. A couple drum fills. Nice guitar solo. This one does get a little repetitive. I think Never Before is kind of ironic because after the first time, they've pretty much done everything before.
Do you think?
It's just in terms of the verses. Yeah. Somebody, so funny, so funny.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Can't hide my misery. Like a lot of those.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's the same verse and verse and verse. And as the shortest song, it does suffer from that density problem that the other songs, like, notably don't have.
Yeah.
If you spread this song out over maybe 6 minutes, I guess, it wouldn't feel as repetitive. But again, sad. I've never felt so bad before. Never felt so sad before. I was hurt by a woman who took my name, took my body, and threw away my soul. Like, wow. Okay. That's Never Before. That's the song that they foresaw as the giant hit. But boy, was it ever not. Smoke on the Water is up next. It's got 500 million streams on Spotify. Certainly their biggest hit.
Yeah. Again, I can't believe I didn't know this was Deep Purple.
Yeah, I actually can't either.
I guess I don't know who I thought it was.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it's ironic that it's the most iconic Deep Purple song of all time because it was actually the 4th single from this record.
Really?
I can't believe they put it like so low in the pecking order. But it was a doozy. It hit number 4 on the Billboard Pop Singles chart, went to number 2 in Canada, and it's pretty much the missing piece that launched Machine Head into the top 10. Almost a year after its release, actually, when Smoke on the Water finally did come out as the single. That's what propelled it into the top 10. Rolling Stone named Smoke on the Water the 434th greatest song of all time. And in 2017, it was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. So that's cool. I feel like I've known Smoke on the Water almost my whole life, right? It's one of those songs that's almost ubiquitous, like it's just around. And if you listen to any music from this time period, you probably know it.
Sure.
My first exposure to Smoke on the Water, as far as I can like trace it and place it, was from a video game.
Really? Which video game?
It was from Rayman Raving Rabbids 2 on the Nintendo Wii.
What?
It's from like 2006. It's an old game. And in the game, there's a Guitar Hero like rhythm game where you use the Wii remote and the nunchuck to like smash the little rabbits. And one of the songs on there was Smoke on the Water.
Wild.
And it's like sped up or pitch shifted and Alvin and the Chipmunkified. But I distinctly remember playing that game and that song a lot. Like that's my first exposure to Deep Purple and to Smoke on the Water.
Wild.
But then when I picked up a guitar, right? I mean, Smoke on the Water is one of the first songs that everyone learns to play on the guitar. Iconic opening riff.
Oh, sure.
And it's so easy. You know, on the guitar, your strings are tuned E, A, D, G, B, E.
Yep. Even I know how to play it on my guitar.
Right. The D and the G is the 5th apart. And so all you do is you take that 5th and you move it up the fret a little bit. Open 3, 5, open 3, 6, 5. Like, that's it. Everybody knows it. Everybody does it. Total Guitar Magazine actually called it the 4th greatest guitar riff ever. 4th out of all guitar riffs that have ever been. Q Magazine said that Smoke on the Water was number 12 on their list of 100 greatest guitar tracks. And again, for this riff, we find Blackmore going back to the well of classical music. He was inspired by Beethoven's Symphony No. 5, and he kind of took it, played it in reverse, and mixed it around a little bit.
Awesome.
You know Symphony 5, right? Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na.
Yeah, oh yeah. Who doesn't know? Come on, who doesn't know Beethoven's 5th? Come on.
People might know it, but they might not know that that's what the 5th one is. I'm just, for clarity's sake, that's the one. Ian Pace actually said, the amazing thing with Smoke on the Water, and Richie's riff in particular, is that somebody hadn't done it before, because it's so gloriously simple and wonderfully satisfying. And sure enough, I mean, it is.
Like, I just don't know who I thought did this.
I don't know. I feel like to most people, casual fans, I think they have the misconception that Deep Purple is a one-hit wonder with Smoke on the Water.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's probably why you wouldn't have known them. I feel like Smoke on the Water is the only Deep Purple song that gets any popular play or traction.
Fair enough.
I mean, this album is full of songs that are hit caliber, but I don't think they got out of the box and around as much as Smoke on the Water did. So we talked ad nauseum, really, about the Casino Fire, right, where they had to take their recording endeavors on the road.
Sure.
This song is so literally about that, it's not even funny. I mean, we just talked about how on the other song they're like talking about eagles in the snow and ravens' calls carrying me home, and like they go so metaphorical. I am convinced after learning about the Casino Fire and how they made this album, and then looking back at Smoke on the Water and listening to it, I'm convinced I just never gave a hill of beans about the lyrics of this song, except for Smoke on the Water, Fire in the Sky. Because if you listen to this song, they tell you the whole story, like detail for detail. We came out to Montreux on the Lake Geneva shoreline to make records with a mobile. We didn't have much time. Frank Zappa was at the best place. Some stupid with a flare gun burned the place to the ground. That's literally the first verse.
Yep.
Roger Glover actually said the title of the song came to him in a dream after seeing the fire. I mean, they watched the hotel burn down and then he went to sleep and woke up with smoke on the water in his head. He said it was probably the biggest fire I'd ever seen up to that point, and probably ever seen in my life. It was a huge building, and he said, I remember there was very little panic getting out because it didn't seem like much of a fire at first, but when it caught, it went up like a fireworks display. So there you go.
Here's the only thing I can think happened. Okay, so the Mixtaper alluded to me having a fun little factoid about a song, and it's this one.
Oh, yeah. I kind of figured it was.
And I'm almost wondering if this factoid I subconsciously knew already, and that's what's caused me to think somebody else did this.
Oh?
Because this song has a fun, unique cover played by musicians of Deep Purple, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Queen, Pink Floyd, Yes, and Rush.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm almost wondering if I've heard that version or knew of that version in some way that made me think one of those other bands was the original version of it and not Deep Purple.
I kind of could believe that, but what a star-studded lineup.
It's on YouTube. You can look it up.
I sure will.
There's 6 guitarists who play the iconic riff. They all like take turns.
That's really cool.
It's awesome. It was in 1989 to raise funds for people affected by the Armenian earthquakes.
Interesting choice of song.
Some people have called it the greatest array of hard rock talent ever assembled.
It very well may be. I mean, those are some talented people.
On guitars, they have David Gilmour, Brian May, Tony Lamy, Richie Blackmore, Alex Lifeson, Chris Squire. On vocals, they have Ian Gillan, Bruce Dixon, Paul Rogers, Brian Adams. On keyboards, they put Keith Emerson, Jeff Downs, and on drums, all by himself, Roger Taylor.
Yeah, that's hard to beat. I mean, you talk about a revolving door supergroup. That is a super group.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And since Smoke on the Water has become so iconic and has brought so much exposure to Montreux, Switzerland, they actually put a sculpture on the lake shore. It's gone now, but the casino does have a little display of the notes in the riff. There's a plaque outside of the location of the hotel they recorded in as well. So there's some neat little real-world tributes to the event and the album over there in Switzerland. Up next, almost done, Lazy is the next track. It was the second single from the album, and Lazy is actually not its original title. Ian Gillan said this was originally going to be called Camping, the Early Morning, In the Valley, The Baby's Arm, but eventually we decided to call it Lazy Lazy. I really like the way that this one opens with such a long instrumental. I mean, this is the longest song on the album by more than a minute. And really, it's just a chance for them to jam again. It's just a chance for them to show off and play some instruments. And I really appreciate that. The vocals don't even come in until 4.5 minutes, give or take.
Yeah.
So I hope you like the Hammond organ, because you will get a lot of it. And that's one of the ways they honestly reminded me of The Nice. Lazy is a song that really felt like The Nice, because, I mean, they played the organ so extensively with, Emerson and stuff. I really feel like it translates really well to this heavy metal kind of sound. The band said that Lazy is inspired by the song Sleepy by Oscar Brown, and it also draws from Eric Clapton's Stepping Out. It's cool. It's got a nice, shuffle to it.
I'll be honest, the lack of words makes me feel like they were being a little lazy.
There's not a lack. They come late. But there aren't very many words when they do start either. There's kind of 2 good verses here. You're lazy, you stay in bed. You don't want money, you don't want bread. You just don't want to live, don't want to cry. Trying ain't done good, you make no effort. Lazy, you just stay in bed. It's not like there's a ton of lyrics to the song, but I'm glad that there are some lyrics and a melody. And can we talk about the harmonica part? That's pretty cool.
Harmonica's pretty cool.
It's not very often you get a prog metal album with any significant harmonica contributions. It does feel like a little bit like a country jam in those parts. I really enjoy Lazy. I like the shuffle swing time of it a little bit. It's a nice shift, a nice change in pace for the album. And then one of my favorite songs, actually, even though it's just kind of goofy, is the last song on the album, Space Truckin'. It's fun. Oh man,
Me with a spaceship.
Space Truckin'?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Who wouldn't be? Who wouldn't be Space Truckin'? I like that we go, I mean, kind of full circle from Highway Star at the beginning to like Highway Star, but in space at the end. It feels very like, what?
Just E.T. and Salmon trucking out in space.
Just trucking along. Yeah, having luck on Venus and a ball in Mars and rocking the Milky Way. Totally.
Was that it? I can never remember which fish I went with.
You did go with salmon, yeah. So Space Truckin' is musically very inspired by the Batman theme song, and its arranger and composer Neil Hefti. Remember that name for next week. It's going to come back, and it's going to be very, very, very important next week.
Remember which name?
Neil Hefti.
Which name?
Neil Hefti.
All right, you've said it 3 times. Hopefully it'll stick now.
Yeah, if not, just think about Batman, and that'll at least be there.
I was thinking about the trash bag.
Oh, yeah, that'll work too.
Hefty, hefty, hefty. That's why I had you say it 3 times.
I know. Save your hefty jokes for next week. But this is inspired by the Batman song. Na 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 na. Space Truckin'. It's another instrumental showcase. Sometimes when they play Space Truckin' live, it has been known to surpass 20 minutes long. There's even a live version of the song on one of their albums that's 31 minutes. A half hour of Space Truckin'. I mean, if you're going at 60 miles an hour for 31 minutes, that's like 31 miles of Space Truckin'.
That's a lot of...
Which admittedly is not going to get you very far in space, but...
How far did you say?
I said that'll get you 31 miles of Space Truckin' at 60 miles an hour.
1 second times 31. That's about $89.90 worth of trucking right there.
Oh, you can make $90 worth of trucking to listen to Space Truckin' for 31 minutes.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't know what trucking rates are at. I guess it depends on what you're hauling, right?
I Googled average price per mile for truck driver.
Okay.
It says the average trucking cost per mile is $2.90.
Solid. So, yeah, 31-minute live version. They also, I mean, in addition to being a loud and rowdy band, I mean, they were wild. And Space Truckin' is, I mean, no exception, but maybe an exception because of how wild it would get. Blackmore would play the guitar with his feet. He would toss it into the air. He'd smash it on the ground.
Heck yeah. What is it with guitarists in rock bands always wanting to smash their livelihood?
They just do. I don't know. On one actually unbelievable night in 1974, he threw his guitar off the stage, and then he smashed another one against a TV camera and broke it, and then he blew up his amplifier, like covered it with gasoline and lit it on fire, and it exploded. Unreal. I mean, when they say that they rode a fireball through space truckin', I guess they really meant it. Boy, I really like Space Truckin'. It's so much fun. The descending riff that repeats and repeats is great. When we talked about him yelling, come on, come on, come on, Space Truckin', lyrically, you know, it's that classic 50s rock and roll lyrics, but like pastiched into space. Ian Gillan said the 2 most popular things in 1971 were this sticker that had a guy with a Bigfoot sticking out that said, keep on truckin', and space travel. Richie came to me one day and said, what if I did a song combining the 2? I said, yeah, sure. He said, you don't think it's too corny? And I said, no, I don't. You should go for it. There you go.
There you go.
Tim Wheeler, who's the frontman to the band Ash, said that Space Truckin' is basically Smoke on the Water, but in space. He said all Deep Purple songs seem to be about being in a gang, and true to form, this is too. But this time, they're intergalactic travelers.
A space gang.
Space gang, yeah. He said the lyrics are utter nonsense, but it doesn't matter. It's just a real stomper of a song with a great riff. And it sure is. Yeah, Space Truckin'. Also cool trivia, the Space Shuttle program at NASA used Space Truckin' as a wake-up call for crew members in space. In 2003, astronauts could request a song that would get used as their wake-up call, and Space Truckin' got a play. I'm kind of surprised the Mixtaper didn't go for that one, but he just did a Space Shuttle fact on Jay-Z, so probably needs to let that one rest a little bit.
Indeed. I'm all for Space Truckin'.
Me too. That's the album. 7 easy tracks, 7 metal tracks. Let's get into Final Spin.
Whereas you know, we spin finally.
Absolutely. I'm not going to mince words. I think I've already probably showed a lot of my hand on this album. I picked it on a whim, and it really surprised me. I think it doesn't have a lot of weak moments.
And you were wummed.
I picked it on a whim, and I was wummed. Make up a word? Okay.
Maybe overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. Yeah, I was really shocked with Machine Head and Deep Purple in general. I really enjoyed this album. It was a lot of fun to put on and listen to. I'm giving the music an 88. Smoke on the Water is this album's biggest hit, but I think the rest of the world has done Deep Purple a disservice by not making the rest of these songs bigger hits. Wow. I really enjoy it. Lyrically, I'm giving the album a 76. You know, it's solid, but there just aren't a lot of lyrics. This is an album meant to jam and play music and rock out. It's not an album that's meant to like convey heavy messages or be lyrically some transcendent piece of art. So, I mean, most of the focus is on the instruments and the production and the music, and that shows. So 76 for the lyrics, but the flip side of that coin is a 91 for instruments and production. I like the variety between the Hammond organs and the harmonicas and the bass and the drums and the guitars, and just all of it sounds really great. I like the distortion that they use. This whole album has a weight and a fuzz to it on the low end that I really like. I like Ian Gillan's voice. I think he sings all these really well. I think it's just a fun album. I'm giving it an 84 for the vibe. I think some of these tracks individually do get a little long, but the album as a whole is a pretty easy listen. I mean, I listened to it 2 or 3 times today, just mindlessly, and it was so fast and so fun. So that puts the overall score for Machine Head by Deep Purple at an 84.9, ranking it at number 332 on my list. In the most incomparable of ways, that puts it above Brooks and Dunn and below Thank You Next by Ariana Grande. 3 very hard albums to compare. The differences between all of them are so vast, my brain cannot comprehend. But that's where the scores put them, so that's where it shall be. Number 332.
Wow.
I'm curious to see whether this album was as much of a surprise for you as it ended up being for me.
I also was surprised by this one. Not only by the fact that I knew a song and didn't realize I knew it, but also just by how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I showed my cards too early or not, but if I didn't, this will be a surprise. This one's getting 9 holy tornado toilets out of 10.
Wow. Holy tornado toilets, taking 3 of the Mixtaper's facts and weaving them together into one.
Really all 4 in a way.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Judas was part of the holy story.
True. Holy tornado toilets, Batman. So it sounds like this was not a Deep Brown album for you. I mean, a 9.
It was not. It was Deep Purple.
That is higher than I expected for this.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Good. Great. Oh, man, that's good. I think this is the most successful outing for progressive rock for you yet.
Yeah, probably. It's gonna go right below Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA.
Ooh, wow. Right below Born in the USA, right above Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Wow, we've hit that area a lot in the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really good.
As for my top 3 in album order.
Again, you get 4 out of 7. It's such a high percentage.
Hey, that's how it rolls. That's how the cookie crumbles.
That's how the space truck rolls.
That's how the casino burns down.
Ouch. Yeah, that's the way the casino melts. Dang.
In album order. Highway Star. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm a Leo. Honorable mention to Pictures of Home and Smoke on the Water.
Ooh, no love for Lazy or Space Truckin'.
Just wasn't room.
I guess not, but that's interesting because Lazy and Space Truckin' are the 3rd and 4th most lingering popular songs on this album, respectively.
Yeah, I know. They just, I don't know, there's something that felt a little more unique about Maybe I'm a Leo and Pictures of Home.
Yeah, that's fair.
They stood out more to me.
I mean, I get Lazy is long and kind of off kilter, like the balance instrumental and lyrical is strange on Lazy, but Space Truckin's fun, but nonsensical. I'll give you that.
Space Truckin is fun. So now can we just both agree Smoke on the Water has to be on the playlist?
I don't know. I kind of was thinking about that earlier today.
Decide by committee for the other one?
I think if it were just up to me, I might not pick Smoke on the Water.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that just because you think it's overplayed? Because I just think, like, for the playlist, this is a great song to rock out to on the playlist.
It really is. Yeah, but so are almost all of them. It doesn't narrow it down any.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you're right, it probably should be on the playlist.
I just think Smoke on the Water stands out more.
Well, I mean, the question is, the playlist is our favorite songs. Do you think Smoke on the Water was your favorite song from this album?
It's definitely top 2.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I'll agree to put it on the playlist and decide by committee.
What else would you want?
Highway Star or Space Truckin are strong picks for me. And I was thinking about maybe I'm a Leo, but you're right. That one is a tiny bit repetitive for as few lyrics there are in it.
Yeah, the riff is awesome. It's just a little too repetitive.
It's excellent. Yes, that's exactly it.
I'll be honest, I think if I had to pick two myself, I would go Smoke on the Water and Pictures of Home, even though it was my honorable mention.
Really?
Yeah, I really like that one. But if you're thinking Highway Star and Space Truckin, I guess I'll just take Smoke on the Water, and you can have whichever one of those two you want.
I'll take Highway Star. We'll take Smoke on the Water and Highway Star. I really like the energy that Highway Star brings to this album. It's a little more serious lyrically than Space Truckin', and it's still got that same upbeat kind of style, and it messes with the rhythms of the song in a way that Space Truckin' kind of doesn't. So it's got a little more of a unique element to it.
Yeah, I just think it's the words of Pictures of Home make me want to put it on there.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can have a picture of Pictures of Home when you listen to the other two.
Oh, okay.
Sounds of Pictures of Home. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Spin It. Thanks for listening. Thanks for getting into Deep Purple with us. Again, really fun episode for me to put together and learn about, and a really cool album to listen to. I hope you had a good time listening to it as well, both the album and this episode. We already did a call to action earlier, so if you want to find us, you can scrub back to whatever time that was.
I think now's a great time to just say thank you to all of our fans.
That's true too. Also, thank you.
You guys have been killing it, checking us out, loving it.
Yeah.
Thank you for everybody who submitted fact or spins to the Mixtaper.
I know he loves that.
Nobody has used his email yet, if you want to be the first to do that.
Mixtaper@spinitpod.com.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. It's been a blast, and will continue to be such. So yeah, be sure to like and follow and subscribe and rate if you like us. You can comment and let us know too, because we love feedback. It's all good. It's all fun. You can also find us and more Spin It content on all the social media platforms, at Spin It Pod Official on Instagram and at Spin It Pod on X. Plus, of course, on the web at www.spinitpod.com. Come back next week to hear Connor say silly things like this.
We've been a little splanky this whole time and didn't even know it.
I've never heard anything quite so silly in my life.
Tell a friend who you'd go space trucking with about the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, a good space trucking road tripping buddy.
Yeah, you guys can listen to the podcast as you're out there space trucking together.
Yeah, and then you could split the $2.90 and each get $1.45 per mile. That'd be pretty good.
Yeah, but do half the work.
Well, yeah, if you split the driving, if you trade it off.
That way the rate stays the same, right? If you each do half the work, then your mileage to pay ratio stays the same. You're not losing money.
That's true.
Either that or one of the friends is, getting their money for free.
So make sure you're the friend that gets the money for free, if that's you. Make sure you're the one letting your friend drive all the way through space, being a highway star. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Remember, Neil Hefty. But until we get to next week's episode, keep spinning. What do you think is the best color to be deep? If brown is the worst, what's the best deep color?
Purple has to be towards the top, right? It's like the color of royalty.
Yeah, you're right, it does.
But if it's not purple, I'm thinking like a red.
Deep red is a solid pick. That feels threatening, though.
Yeah, because it's in first place. And if you come for it, it'll burn your casino down.
Deep red like the fire in the sky. Hey, that's just the way the casino melts.